Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners to order. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, and especially for the adaptation to the schedule change. I know that was a little bit different than what we've experienced in the past, and I really do appreciate everybody's flexibility. Fellow board members, I miss y'all being here next to me. It's a little lonely, but I got my sidekick here, Keith Pardue, so at least I'm not all by myself. So Keith, thank you for being
Glad to be here.
If we could, let's have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the mission of the Texas State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners is to establish and enforce policies to ensure the best possible quality of veterinary and equine dental provider services for the people of the state of Texas. Mrs. Whitehead, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Gola,
Here.
Dr. Kreiner,
Here.
Dr. Skaggs,
Present.
Miss Olivier,
Present.
Miss Sue Allen,
Here.
Mr. Pardue,
Here.
Miss Whitehead present, and I think that's it. Sorry, making sure.
I think we have full attendance. We have a quorum, and thank
Wonderful.
you for that. Okay, we're going to move on to the approval of the July 16th, 2024 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the July 16th minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Our minutes from July 16th are approved. We're going to move into the public comment portion of this. Please be advised that our public comments must be limited to 3 minutes. The board will not hear public comments or testimony regarding a pending contested case. I'm going to go ahead and recognize our in-person comment first. We've got 2 of those. I'm going to start calling up Miss Alice Foster. Please come have a seat in front of us. And again, please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I will.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I want to share the heartbreaking case of my beloved cat, Cinder, to highlight the risk of hypothyroidism treatment in cats with underlying heart conditions. Cinder was 11-year-old when diagnosed with hypothyroidism in April 2022. Her condition was successfully managed by methimazole, keeping her stable and healthy. However, her life took a tragic turn when she underwent I-131 radioactive iodide treatment in September 2023. Cinder had a known genetic predisposition to heart disease. Her pro-BNP was 117 a month before the treatment. She had a history of a heart murmur, and her little mate sister Starlet had just passed away 2 months prior her treatment. While Cinder's heart appeared structurally normal in her last echocardiogram, this was likely due to the thyroid management. However, this made her methimazole withdrawal period especially critical. Cinder was taken on methimazole for 25 days, 11 days longer than planned due to facility delays. No additional tests were performed to reassess her T4 level before check her heart after this prolonged withdrawal. Despite her increased risk, her T4 spiked dramatically after just 14 days. Why was it acceptable for her to continue the withdrawal of methimazole? Just 8 days after receiving I-131, Cinder developed pulmonary edema and passed away due to heart complications. I believe the extended withdrawal from methimazole, combined with her predisposition to heart disease, triggered this fatal heart failure. Cinder's case raises 2 critical points. 1, prolonged methimazole withdrawal before I-131 treatment should be avoided, especially in cats with known heart risk. Two, retesting after any delays in the withdrawal period should be mandatory, particularly for at-risk cats. Cinder's passing was prompting the clinic to implement a new heart screening test during thyroid scans, a test that could have prevented her death. This highlights the need for more careful, individualized care when treating hypothyroid cats, particularly those with heart conditions. Cinder's passing was preventable. Her hypothyroidism had been well controlled, but the extended withdrawal period without retesting was negligent and ultimately led to her tragic passing. There is no doubt the radiologists who treated her I-131 failed to retest, a clear act of negligence given Cinder's known heart conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. We appreciate your time and being here today. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we call Tether Katiba. Again, please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good morning. All right. Let me just break. Going into the fall, I believe that there's a number of things in terms of the board and agency functions that, in combination with TDLR's assistance, to look at as far as improvements. And one of those is the means and intention of the Veterinary Licensing Act, which was designed specifically to regulate the practice of veterinary medicine with those under its jurisdiction, which are the licensees. My point is that the Licensing Act, specifically Occupations 801, and the Administrative Code also that is concurrent, is not here to regulate the public. There are a number of different portions of the Veterinary Licensing Act that are not specific to the licensee specific, and it is to inhibit or guide, specifically to inhibit the public's right of access to a number of different options. And one of those that is very important in the governing of, say, investigations is the access to the licensee's responses. If we historically look back to agency process, we do see an ORD 683 by one of the board members, Helen Camp, if I am correct, that did offer a special right of access to a licensee's response. And some may ask, well, why is this really important? Because I don't believe that an investigation be thorough or complete without full cooperation of both parties during an investigation. Now, I am probably one of the last individuals who, during an investigation process, who actually received a licensee's response. And that licensee has since been convicted of a felony. And it only just brings home the importance of a very thorough investigation, consideration of all the information and evaluation of that. And without access to a licensee's response, I don't believe the agency and investigators and those privy and part of the decision-making process can make an informed decision. So I really believe that we need to reevaluate the current statutes as they are present, and whether or not another ORD can be funneled to the Attorney General's office to reevaluate the code as it exists, and also take into account the ORD 683 by Helen Camp.
Thank you, Ms. Katiba. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, that, I believe, is all of the public in-person testimony, unless there's somebody that's entered that I'm not aware. Okay, seeing none, and we're going to move on to our virtual participant. If you could bring them on, I believe that's Miss Susan Wright. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Ms. Wright, you may begin. You have, again, please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I understand. Thank you for permitting me to make a public comment to the board. My name is Susan Wright. I am a retired registered nurse and volunteer twice a week at my local no-kill animal shelter as a post-operative recovery person. I see skilled and highly dedicated veterinarians and veterinary technicians performing almost daily spay and neuter surgeries, in addition to periodic specialty surgeries. It is not a high volume clinic, but performs a valuable service in the community in saving countless animals from dire circumstances living on the streets, or from euthanasia in killed facilities. This nonprofit facility does not have the resources to allow pregnant animals to give birth and take care of the neonates. Sadly, too many of the feral cats trapped for spay are pregnant, and the fetuses are removed en bloc and placed in a bucket for refuse disposal. Last year, the facility recorded 189 feral cats in various stages of pregnancy whose fetuses were removed. With a typical litter size of 4, this equates to 756 potential neonate cadavers just from this one facility. My question is, has the board addressed promoting, encouraging, or advocating for veterinary schools anatomy training, researchers, or private industry to collaborate with Texas shelters for a source of fetus? The Association of Shelter Veterinarians 2016 Veterinary Medical Care Guideline for spay-neuter programs addresses ethical concerns by stating when spaying pregnant cats and dogs, fetal euthanasia is not necessary to ensure humane death. Mammalian fetuses remain in a state of unconsciousness throughout gestation and therefore cannot consciously perceive pain. When a gravid uterus is removed en bloc, fetuses will not experience consciousness regardless of stage of gestation, and death will occur without pain. Feline fetal research uses have included stereological study of cerebellar morphology, research with mesenchymal stem cells for the treatment of immune and viral illnesses and cancer anti-inflammatory effects, and central nervous system development investigation. The 2 Texas DVM programs, A&M and Texas Tech, pre-vet track schools, and veterinary technician programs could benefit from feline fetal work. It is unlikely the feral population will ever be fully under control, and I ask the board to promulgate veterinary schools and researchers' collaboration with shelters in providing a worthy use of this unfortunate but valuable resource. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wright. We do appreciate your comments today. Okay, I believe that is all of the virtual comments.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We would be moving on to executive session at this point, but unless I have board members that need us to go into executive session, we're going to skip this item until we get down further into our agenda at the end. Is there any need for executive session at this point, members? Okay, hearing none. We're then going to move into our director reports, and I recognize our executive director, Ms. Sharkey.
Thank you, Dr. Gola. So this is the first meeting of our fiscal new year. So Happy New Year to those who celebrate at the state level. The most exciting update we have is that our database, our new licensing system, went live in early August. We actually achieved full functionality yesterday with the disciplinary lookup function coming fully online yesterday. So we are really excited about this step forward for the agency. It's been a very involved process and project, a collaboration between TDLR, DIR, and our agency. And so this is just opening up a lot of possibilities for us, and we're really excited about this. So basically for licensees and anyone listening, you are going to have to create a new login to this new system. In order to renew your license, you're also going to have to update and upload any CEs and proof of continuing education before you can renew. So that's going to be a really big change from how we used to run things. I'm sure Wendy will talk a little bit about that in her licensing update. But I do want to thank Wendy and her team specifically. We've gotten an influx of calls for issues with the new licensing system, questions about it, and her team have been fielding those with aplomb and really guiding folks through that new process. So it's a great step forward, and we're excited to get this underway. We are in the process of legislative hearings. It is that time again. In early September, I testified in front of the Senate Committee on Water, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs about the implementation of our Sunset Bill, SB 1414. I testified with Courtney Arbor, the new executive director over here at TDLR. We testified about our collaboration and how the agencies are working together and all the great successes we've had so far. In early October, I additionally testified in front of the Legislative Budget Board for our joint budget and staff from the governor's office. That's called a joint budget hearing. That is the first kind of step in the legislative appropriations process. We received no questions and no comments, so always a good sign. Additionally, all board members, you should have received a copy of the State Auditor's Office report. This was mandated by one of our sunset bills. The auditor's report really highlighted the strides the agency has made in implementing various sunset recommendations from the last couple of years. They found that we'd either already implemented or substantially implemented or were in process of implementing all of the various sunset recommendations. So very good news and an acknowledgement of the hard work of the team sitting here at this table. Additionally, we have a couple of staff updates to share. Houston area investigator Michael Campos left the agency in September for another opportunity. We wish him all the best. Because apparently the agency has a Michael quota. We hired to fill that role. Michael Gramatsky started with us in early October and has been a great addition to the team. We also additionally hired a licensing specialist, Teresa Estes, who started with us also in early October. Next Monday, we are onboarding our new tech director. So we're going to have an in-house tech support person who's going to help us with our database, in-house computer repairs network, any of those kind of issues. So we're very excited to have that new level of support on board, especially with the new database in place. And a fun announcement for the board, we are in the process of onboarding a new software for you all to use. It's called Board Effect. It's a software that's really designed for board members. It's going to be a one-stop shopping for you all to get access to files for either informal settlement conferences, board meetings, information about meetings, anything you could want or need to access. It'll be all right there. So this will be in place of OneDrive and all the links that we've been sending you. So we're really trying to streamline that and make that user experience better for you all. So we started working with them at the start of this fiscal year and are expecting to be able to onboard sometime before the end of the calendar year. So
your expectation is that will happen the end of 2024,
yes,
not our calendar year.
actual calendar year, not state calendar
Okay,
year.
thank you.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes.
We're looking forward to that.
So yes, so hopefully ahead of the January meeting, we should be able to have this in place and y'all can test drive it ahead of that
And
meeting.
is that how we will access everything as far as reviewing cases, all the information all in one spot?
Yes,
Good.
and so it's unlimited cloud storage, so all the files can live in there. We're not worried about folks being able to delete or move things around. So any of those issues that we've been having with OneDrive and sharing those files should be rectified by this software.
Great. But we're going to have to unlearn our current process and be retaught, right?
A little bit, yes, but we're feeling very pleased with the resources this group has to help us sort of get that training, get that out to you all.
That's exciting from an access and security standpoint. So,
Yes.
great.
So that
So is this
concludes
going to be, I'm sorry, is this going to be a replacement for what we're currently using that we have issues with?
Yes, Dr. Kreiner. So that's the hope, that this is going to be basically a repository. You log in, you have access to all the files you need there. You're not necessarily dealing with links and trying to download, and we're trying to sort of ease that process and clean up some of those issues.
And where did we come up with this particular system?
So AAVSB actually uses it. And so we, as an AAVSB committee member, I've been using it for about the last 6 months and talked to them fairly extensively about their process and all of the different steps they went through to test out and onboard. And this was available to us and at a price point that we could fit in with our budget and didn't require us going out for bid. And it was the most competitively priced among the competitors that we looked at.
Okay. And so will we be continuing to pay for what we're using currently and that, or is that going to change?
So OneDrive is included as part of our Microsoft subscription. So that's everything that we use, including, Outlook, PowerPoint, Microsoft Calendar. So that's just already, we're not necessarily paying anything extra for it. It's an included product in the Microsoft suite that we use across the agency.
Thank you.
I've heard great things about this software, Brittany. Good job.
Thank you. So that officially concludes my report. Happy to take any additional questions. All right. We will then go to licensing. Wendy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to report today. We are very excited about the new database. It's going very well. The first month was a lot of working out the kinks, but we did work out all the kinks, and now we can help everyone with any problem they might have. So we spent a lot of time talking to the licensees, and I'm learning a lot about everybody that is in our population and how we can help them. So we're pleased to be doing that. So the licensing team is reporting for the fourth quarter and for the year end. We have some numbers here, some numbers that you're used to seeing we don't have just because of the learning curve on the database reporting aspect, but we will have those numbers at next board meeting. The ones we have today are for active licensing numbers, which are counted as those whose license is in one of the following statuses: active, expired, inactive, suspended, and probated suspension. So those are people who can easily come back and become active with a few keystrokes. We're not counting people who cannot easily come back, such as canceled, revoked, deceased, retired, etc. The total active agency license counts as of August 31st, 2024 were 11,415 DVM licenses, 2,752 LDT licenses, 65 equine dental provider licenses, for a year-end FY23 total of 14,232 active licensees. The renewal numbers we have are the total number of active and inactive licenses that were renewed only in the fourth quarter. 2,240 DVM licenses active, 119 inactive DVM licenses, which are a total of 2,359 total DVM licenses renewed in the fourth quarter. We also had 466 active LVT licenses, as well as 60 inactive, for a fourth quarter renewal number of 526. We had 12 active EDP licenses renew and no inactive ones, for a total EDP licenses renewed in the fourth quarter of 12. This equals a grand total of 2,897 active and inactive licenses renewed in the fourth quarter. Does anyone have any questions for licensing?
You're talking not fourth quarter calendar year, right? Fourth quarter of your fiscal year or
Of
whatever?
the fiscal year, which
Okay,
would
thank
be
you.
June to August. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Tacker, enforcement.
Good morning, everybody. We ended our biggest year ever since 2018. Last year, we intaked 607 cases, which was up from the previous year of 456. Looking at the breakdown, 141 of them were non-jurisdictional. Most of them were complaints against shelter veterinarians. We opened 106 cases from inspections and 9 cases from medical review. So out of them total cases, 185 of them were standard of care cases. We had 67 cases open for CE violations, 52 for practicing without license, and 27 for controlled drug violations. We, on the inspection side of the house, there were a total of 1,630 inspections performed, and that was up from the previous year, which was 768. So a lot of work going on out there by the enforcement team. And the only addition we had, Juan Dawkins, our tenured investigator, was promoted to a enforcement supervisor. So a lot of things going on. As of today, we've already completed close to 300 inspections and have already taken in about 100 complaints in the first 2 months. So not slowing down, the numbers keep climbing. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Mike, is that 607 case intake, is that a record?
Since 2018, it is. We have solid statistics. 607 last year. The year before was 456. 2022 was 341. 2021 was 419. 2020 337. So from 2020, we almost doubled the amount of complaints that are coming in.
And you doubled the number of inspections as well from last year.
Yes, sir.
Would you say the percentage of cases that come from those inspections, are they about the same? Or are we getting more about percentage of investigations coming from inspections?
We're right at a 7% case opening from inspection, so it's about the same.
So historical is about the same.
Historically, we've been around the 5-6% mark.
Okay.
We're up to 7, but when you look at the increased quantity, that's not a huge gap from 5 to 7. But when you go from 768 to 1630, that's a big gap. So 7%, I would call it the same.
And is there any one reason more specific than other, or is it across the board of reasons?
I would say some of your bigger cities, some of the rural, we have made it out to the rural settings this past year, which we're seeing veterinarians, they're calling the office saying, hey, does this guy work for y'all? Because we've never been inspected before. So I think that's where our uptick in complaints are coming from, because they've been out of balance or out of check for so long that they're behind. So the rural settings are probably the biggest out of all of it.
So we're getting to places we haven't been in a long time.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
We've been all the way from El Paso down to Brownsville along the border. We inspected a veterinarian that's been practicing for 54 years, never been inspected.
Wow.
So we're out there that places the board's never been before.
Well, our new resources are allowing us to do what
Absolutely.
we've done.
Absolutely. With the additional investigators and the additional travel budget, that's what made it happen. Without them two things, we'd be in the same boat.
Any other questions for Mike?
Mr. Tacker?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. What portion of the unlicensed practices claims that you're seeing is directly contributed to practicing chiropractic medicine on animals?
So we handled 52 practice and without license cases last year, and the majority of it, or the ear clippings, you'll see a lot of advertisements on Facebook, equine dental work, but the majority of it, small animals, ear clippings, your dog fighting situations, things in that situation.
Thank you, sir.
So my question has to do with something that is in the realm of non-jurisdictional. And I know that you or the board got the go-ahead to look at cases and decide that we didn't have to do any investigations on them. Have you seen many of those where you can elect to not do any investigation because it's obviously a non-jurisdictional, such as, I don't know, a groomer?
So we had a total of 141 non-jurisdictionals. The largest portion were shelter veterinarians that were full-time employees of the shelter, and the shelters own the animals. That was the biggest. We do have some one-offs where, whether it's groomers or a boarding facility that provides vaccinations, we do see them as well. But the shelter vets are probably the largest amount of non-jurisdictional cases because of the ownership of the animal.
Right. And so do you, as the director of enforcement, let those cases go, or because I don't recall that I saw any non-jurisdictionals as I was going through our board meeting notes?
So we screen them on the front end when they come in. They go through The intake specialist, the enforcement specialist will screen it. They're assigned to an investigator for a second screening, and they're screened the third time by supervisor. And if we don't have jurisdiction, we don't go forward with the investigation. So there's three
Okay.
levels of screening to make sure that they're non-jurisdictional. And
Right.
some of the cases, there's actually been a fourth level where some of them we have sent over to legal and sought legal opinions as well. So well, there's a lot of effort. We just don't get them and close them. There's a lot of effort to verify that we don't have jurisdiction.
Right. And then do we still, as board members, approve those as being dismissed or call them back? Or is that being handled at the administrative level?
I think you might help me with that one. I think you do see them and
So there's a list attached to my report as for any of those that are dismissed.
Okay. I just didn't see it, so I was
It's not
asking.
an
Maybe I
agenda
didn't
item,
look.
it's in a little bit of a different area, yes.
Okay. All right. If you could point that out to me, that'd be great.
I guess that's all I have.
Right, Kelly.
Right, thank you. So I compiled these numbers probably about 2 weeks ago. A few things have changed, so I'll try to note those as we come across them. At the time I compiled the data, we had 383 open complaints. 34 of those were pending board informal conference, 87 pending board action, 47 pending approval of orders from the board. And we had 136 pending approval from TDLR's commission. That meeting actually happened yesterday and those cases were approved. So that 136 has been approved and is no longer pending. We have 8 cases pending civil and criminal proceedings, 26 pending staff conference, 18 cases currently filed at SOA, 8 cases pending SOA filing, 5 cases pending a cease and desist, and 14 cases pending agreed order. So after today's board meeting and TDLR's meeting yesterday, our projected remaining complaints are approximately 113. Any questions?
All right. Jared with compliance.
Good morning. The compliance department currently has 38 licensees that are being monitored regarding board orders. Compliance has seen requests for CE hardship extensions during fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 decline. This can be attributed to CEs being able to be obtained totally online and more avenues for learning that way. The task of DPS fingerprint validations is continuing to take quite a bit of time to accomplish. It will continue for the next year or so, given the number of licensees that were initially fingerprinted when the requirement came into place in 2018. Every licensee will have their fingerprints validated after 5 years to make sure that they are still an active licensee per state and federal guidelines. Staying on the fingerprint topic, 962 total fingerprints were submitted last year and have been reviewed in fiscal year 2024. I have also seen a bit of an uptick in licensees getting arrested and failing to report that to our agency over the last year as well. The compliance department, myself, has fielded over 652 calls for compliance, licensing, fingerprints, CE, and general agency related questions in fiscal year 2024. The number of calls, however, is declining as more information is now readily available on our website and our employees are getting well versed in our agency's rules and regulations. The compliance department also assisted with 217 agency related requests from various departments of our agency in 2024 as well. Lastly, CE audits were performed by enforcement investigators during their 2024 inspections. However, that has changed due to our new database that is up and running. As Wendy notated earlier, along with Brittany, CEs are now required to be updated upon renewal, and if not, an extension may be granted in extreme circumstances. and auditing taking place on a random basis when that extension due date are lapsed. And with that, I can answer any questions.
In regards to the fingerprinting 5-year requirement, how do we notify them is that something we send them via email?
GPS? Yeah, so they send a list, and what I do is I go into the system and I click it, I have to unfollow them. And then if that licensee decides after a year or two that they want to come back in, then I'll just go back into the system and refollow their fingerprint.
So they don't have to renew their fingerprints.
No, they don't.
Thank you for clarifying. It's a lot of work though, 900 a year. Yeah.
Right, and last but not least, Candace Mangler with the finance report.
Good morning, everyone. I'll try to talk as loud as I can. So the agency has just wrapped up the end of the fiscal year 2024 as of August 31st. The agency brought in an estimated $2,536,660 in revenue. The agency expended an estimated $2,837,750. The agent's budgeting for the fiscal year 2024 was $3,686,563. The agency lapsed an estimated $620,000. The agency made an effort this fiscal year to conserve funds as much as possible to help offset the shortage in revenue received this fiscal year, which is also the reason for the large amount of money being lapsed. As stated in the General Appropriations Act, our agency's appropriations are limited to revenue collection, so any fees, fines, revenues, and available fund balances generated by the agency must cover at a minimum the cost of our appropriations for the fiscal year. In the event that actual and/or projected revenue collections and fund balances are insufficient to offset the cost, the agency could have its appropriation authority reduced to be within the amount of fee revenue expected to be available. As of September 1st, the new fee schedule went into effect. With this new fee schedule, the agency is expected to generate enough revenue to cover its appropriations in fiscal year 2025.
Any questions? Okay. Ms. Sharkey, do you have any other comments?
I do not, no.
All right, thank you all for the director reports, much appreciated. We've had a couple of folks enter the room, I believe, that are here for public comment.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to move back into agenda item number 3 to allow for the public comments to be made. I do need to advise you that you must keep your comments to 3 minutes, and that these comments cannot be testimony regarding a pending contested case. So who would like to go first? I believe y'all came in together. And this is, Susie, have you developed that, say that correctly? If you would like, come up to the chairs that we have here and again, I'm gonna time you, you've got 3 minutes.
Okay, yes, sir. I just want to thank you for allowing us to speak. We're at the South Congress address for about 15 minutes, thinking we were at the right place.
We've done that ourselves.
I would like to introduce you to Spike and Lady. They were on the euthanasia list at ACS, and I adopted them together in 2014. They were inseparable for a decade until we crossed paths with Mr. Sam Sammer. In April, Lady was the victim of a vicious dog attack, and while her injuries were very severe, I stand before you today to plead with you to look deeper into her case, into what really happened. I would like to make absolutely clear I'm not here because Sam Sammer couldn't save her life. I'm here because he prevented her from being transferred to a facility that had the means to provide her with the medical attention she desperately needed. My dog Lady was held without ransom. Instead of allowing me to pick her up by 7:45 as instructed, she was forced to lay there and suffer for hours without her family. When arrangements had already been made, medical records had been transferred, and she had a hospital bed awaiting her at Blue Pearl, a hospital with the resources needed to save her. This not only calls for this case to not be dismissed, it borders on animal cruelty. By the time I was told to come be with my dog, her skin was rotting on her head, and I could smell death on her. Despite this, she did everything she could to try to get into my car from the gurney. She wanted to live, but Dr. Sam Sammer had already decided it was her time to go, denying her the presence of the only family she's ever known in the process, preventing Lady's transfer and forcing her to suffer is not just negligence. It borders on animal cruelty. Had I been allowed to come to the hospital in person to discuss her care and been permitted to decide for myself what was best for my dog, I would have proceeded with the plan to transfer her to Blue Pearl much earlier and would have saved her life. The worst case scenario is that she would have lost her leg. She would be here today with the opportunity to eventually die in peace of old age at her home, surrounded by her loved ones as she deserved. Spike is a different dog now. The light is gone from his eyes. He spends the majority of his days sleeping in Lady's crate. After 6 months, I don't have the heart to move it or wash her blanket. He looks so strange without her. She was never far behind, always there to protect him. This has impacted me so profoundly that I found it necessary to seek therapy for the first time in my life to try to alleviate the debilitating guilt and shame that I carry for allowing myself to be bullied into not rushing to my dog's side. My therapist is treating me with the same plan utilized for a victim of a drunk driver. Sam Sammer is the drunk driver of my life, someone who carelessly and recklessly took a loved one from me and my family. Every day I replay the what ifs and whys. What if he had gotten a flat tire in the morning and not made it in? What if his alarm hadn't gone off and he was late? Why did it have to be my family that crossed paths with him? I urge you to thoroughly review Lady's case and the recommendation that it be dismissed be overturned. May your decision make clear that the great state of Texas does not find this behavior acceptable for those who carry the title of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine here. I grew up here. My father was born here and proudly served this country for over 30 years before retiring in Selma, always teaching us that you can count on the majority of Texans to do the right thing, and those that don't will be held accountable by the appropriate authorities. I pray the lady will be given the justice she deserves, and your decision will allow her soul to rest in peace, and that one day I'll be able to look at her pictures and smile with only the good times we had in mind. Thank you for your time. I'd like to make sure that you see Lady was standing there, and in this picture, her eyes full of emotion and tears. He stopped me from coming to the hospital and I met him. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it was Dr. Tran's colleague, or Dr. Seymour's colleague, that Dr. Tran that initially told us that the Blue Pearl had capabilities beyond theirs and that Lady could benefit from those.
I'm sorry, sir. Would you mind stating your name?
My name is Warren Eads. I
Thank
am
you.
the father of Lady Esquivel. You know, it was Dr. Tran, one of Dr. Seymour's or Mr. Seymour's colleagues, that indicated that the Blue Pearl did have capabilities beyond those at the Vital Pet Hospital that we went to, that he is a part of. Upon this, she made an appointment. We had a time to go at 7:40. He stalled. He was trying to increase the bill, is what he was doing, and Lady suffered. My wife is suffering. I don't know what to do. I just want to make sure that, you know, others who are misfortunate enough to come in contact with this person know ahead of time. I think he should have his license stripped from him. He was not concerned with Lady. He was concerned with Billy. I've said my piece. I appreciate your time.
Thank y'all for being here today. We do appreciate it. And
Thank you for letting us speak. You don't know how much it means to us.
Dr. Gola,
yes, ma'am.
if we could we get the CP number for that case?
Yes, it is CP 24-225, and that is under the area of dismissal from medical review.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, we're going to jump spots here for just a second. We're going to move on to number 10. We're going to skip number. Excuse me, just a second. Let me get oriented here. We're going to skip to number 8, and then we're going to return to number 7, which is our board committee reports. So I'm going to call on Ms. Sharkey for the discussion regarding the strategic plan and legislative appropriation requests. And then after that, we'll go back into our reports.
Thank you, Dr. Gola. So as I alluded to in my comments earlier, we are in the season where we are gearing up for the legislative session. And so in even numbered years, the agency is required to prepare a strategic plan and the legislative appropriations request to guide our requests going into legislative session. So the strategic plan was submitted earlier this summer. The legislative appropriations request was submitted in mid-August. So the strategic plan, Dr. Gola and I conducted 2 virtual town halls to engage with members of the public, licensees, and various stakeholders from across the state. We then also conducted some internal focus groups with our staff to kind of figure out what issues they were seeing. and what potential fixes there were. The comments from those meetings helped inform our strategic plan, which really highlighted the need for building out our enforcement component of our new database system, and actually really bringing on our new tech support person, which we were able to do within existing FTEs and resources. And so that gentleman is starting with us next week. And so this helped, the strategic plan and what we revealed from that process helped inform our legislative appropriations request. The number one exceptional item we requested was for the build out of that new enforcement component within our existing new licensing system, as well as targeted raises for staff at the agency. Last session, there was a historic 2-year 5% across the board raise for state employees. And so because of that across the board raise, we felt that it was important to do a more targeted approach this time around to be more effective in our advocacy for our staff. And so one of the challenges we have as a smaller agency is that we sometimes cannot compete with larger agencies. And so the number we used there was looking at the midpoint salary range of each of our positions and making sure that we could bring all of our team up to those midpoint levels. Several of our staff members are already at or above those midpoint levels, but for those that are not, we wanted to make sure that we were there and able to compete with larger agencies. So those are the two big funding items we sought in this legislative session. We had a great appropriation session last session. I credit Mike as our interim executive director and his team with putting together a really comprehensive LAR. The strategy, frankly, last session was to get on record for asking for everything we ever thought we would need, and the legislature gave it to us. I think we all sort of were very surprised by that and thought we were going to have to kind of come back and ask, get things in piecemeal and come back and ask for it. The legislature really listened to our needs last session, and so we just didn't have the same amount of needs going into this session, which is a great position for us and the agency to be in. And I think you're seeing, based on these reports, what the agency is doing with increased resources. So, happy to go into further detail about anything of any interest or take any questions.
I think I'll just open up just a little bit of discussion, Brittany, in regards to our process for both items here on this agenda in regards to the strategic plan and the LAR as we call it. I think there's been some conversations regarding the timeline with which all that happened, and I think looking back, we can definitely identify some areas that as a board and our level of involvement could have been much better.
Yes.
I know there were many that have the feeling that there wasn't enough time for our board to do that. And so I want to make sure going forward that we do not have that same experience. And we need to create some policies in place as we go through the next round, that we have an appropriate policy with which we can follow.
And Judge Rilla, thank you for that. I absolutely agree. This was my first session as executive director, or my first time doing these kind of, doing the strategic plan and legislative appropriations request as executive director. So there were obviously, I think, missed opportunities and some lessons learned there in our processes and what we need to do to make sure that the board feels like they have adequate buy-in into these documents going forward.
And I also want to offer that I needed to provide better oversight for that as well. And this being my first experience, I've learned from this. But
yeah,
I'd like to open up discussion to board members. If you'll have some comments, now would be a really good time to have this conversation on what we could do better, maybe what we didn't do right, and let's have that conversation if y'all would.
I'd like to kind of kick that off a little bit. I echo the concerns. We as board members are fiduciaries of this organization, and we're appointed by the governor to ensure that the strategic plan and how we're implementing and being stewards of state dollars is used in a good manner. So while I understand and totally am empathetic and agree with, we had some stuff go on, let's learn, let's be better. I have a background with the legislature, and I know December 24th is not a end-all date. Today's date and this request and the hearings that have gone on doesn't mean that we as board members cannot have value and input in the LAR request and the strategic plan that goes forward. So it would be my specific request that in the coming weeks before the end of the year, hopefully, but no later than, when we first have a hearing in January for the budget, that we could have the opportunity to really digest what it is, so that we as board members are not saying that what you've presented, Brittany, is not something that we would agree with. We do think we're in a good direction, and I look at the financial reports and I think we're doing good, but just making sure that it's something that we as board members can also stand behind, because I fully support you, and I appreciate the job that you're doing, and think that we're on a great track, but need that transparency as a board member, and the involvement with, maybe the finance committee takes that on, and we commit to that time. But thank you, and thank you, Dr. Gola, too, for your recognition of the role that board members need to play in the discussions, particularly as we go into the legislative session.
And Ms. Whitehead, thank you for those comments. And so we're looking at a variety of fixes. And so whether that's, much more regular finance committee meetings, just for those kind of check-in and touch points, in addition to even potential statutory changes, something we've learned through this process is TDLR actually has a statutory requirement that their board has to approve the LAR before it's submitted. And so obviously that would require probably like an off-cycle kind of a meeting for all of us to get together and do that. But we're looking at that as a potential addition to our statute to make sure that that's not a step that's missed going forward. So we're taking this seriously and looking at different kind of structural fixes to get this in place.
Well, and I don't think, and I don't negate TDLR's role and authority, and the bill as written and what it means for our impact as board members. But I do believe it's the legislature's goal that we ultimately go back to a standalone agency. And that being said, we have to continue, and most of us are serving 6-year terms. So we have the buy-in, and we have to be knowledgeable. And I think also the TDLR board needs to hear our voice when looking at those decisions, and knowing, I'm interested in, did TDLR care what we thought about the budget as board members? So I appreciate that, but definitely think there's still time before session for us to, as a board, and have that review, and be able to provide that feedback, particularly in open legislative hearings.
Any other comments in regards to this?
I'd like to echo what Ms. Whitehead said. I think that she is absolutely on point. We are fiduciaries of the state board, the TDBME, and I would like for us to have the accountability, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we have the oversight. And we want to be able to become more independent, and this is one of those areas I think will allow us to demonstrate our commitment and our knowledge of this particular process. So I concur with Ms. Whitehead, and I hope that we will be able to have an opportunity to review the information before the legislative session starts in May.
Dr. Gola, as chairman of the Finance Committee, I would like to express my concern with the changing of the agenda going forward to kind of put this ahead and getting some comments out there before we had our chance to give our report. I'm going to go ahead and, if it is allowable, go ahead and read the Finance Committee meeting report. If not, I can wait till you say it's okay.
No, Dr. Skaggs, I wanted to do this in this manner so that we could have this discussion ahead of time, so that we could open it up to your discussion from the Finance Committee. So please present your prepared statement.
Finance Committee recently reviewed the most recent LAR and the LAR process. There's some concerns that I feel need attention from the entire board. The current LAR lacked the input, review, and developmental process needed to be sure that the needs of the agency are served. The current process does not serve the agency well. It prevents the input the legislator requires from us for oversight and direction for the agency. It gives the board no input on important decisions such as utilization of lapsed funds, which are desperately needed by the agency. During the previous LAR, the process was spent process was used, which spent months in the development of the LAR with input from each department head, the finance director, and the board. It was a complete process with the goal of seeking input from all vested parties. As a result of the review, it is the recommendation of the Finance Committee that a process for the development of the LAR be formulated. A timeline should be developed through the Finance Committee or a board-appointed subcommittee, the Executive Director, the Finance Director, and each department head. This timeline should include beginning the process several months before the LAR is due, which allows a thorough evaluation and development process by the vested parties and ultimately the Board of Directors and the Executive Director. A timeline should be developed for critical evaluation of any budget access near the end of the budget period for items needed to be improved in the agency. I would encourage the chairman to appoint a group, whether it's a finance committee or the subcommittee, to work with the above mentioned staff to make recommendations and timelines for the LAR process. Thank you.
And Dr. Skaggs, thank you. I really appreciate your comments, and I echo many of them. The process that we went through this last year was done in an area of time where we were trying to figure out our attachment, whose responsibility was what, the timelines that occurred snuck up on us because of things we were dealing with. And those are all excuses. And I take full responsibility for the process that didn't happen. I should have had better oversight, and I apologize to the board members for that not happening. I want our experience as a board to be very transparent and cooperative. And because of circumstances, that's got us where we are. However, to Ms. Whitehead's point, it's not too late. And what I would like to see, as you requested, Dr. Skaggs, is that the Finance Committee work with Brittany and the team to review the current LAR that has been submitted and see if there's some deficiencies that we need to address. And then we as a board come back and do what we need to do to try to make those recommendations to fix those. If it turns out after the review, things are great and we're happy with it, wonderful. We've had a chance to have our input. And then secondly, I would like the Finance Committee, I don't think we need to appoint a different committee. I think the Finance Committee is the right one to do that. I would like to see them work with the staff to create policies and procedures so that going forward, we have a plan, and hopefully maybe with the help of TDLR, we can get some statutory changes that would require our board to have to review the LAR going forward before it's submitted, so that we have a policy in place that's appropriate, succinct, and everybody knows who needs to be doing what when. There's a saying goes, you learn more from your losses than you do your wins. And I think this experience allows us an opportunity to learn from some shortcomings to make the policy better in the future. And if y'all would agree to that, that would be my proposal to make up for what we didn't do, and then to also make sure that this doesn't happen again. Comments?
I think that's a wonderful idea and a great approach to move forward. I would just request that we have a board meeting in January before the legislative hearings occur, so that we have done the work and done the analysis to where any board recommendations or any board input can be heard in a timely manner.
Okay, so noted.
And Ms. Whitehead, I think our scheduled January meeting occurs about 2 weeks into the legislative session. And so sort of based on historical timelines, committees probably won't be appointed at that point. So I think we could keep that date and still be within our timeline there.
Okay. Dr. Skaggs, are you okay with the proposal?
Certainly, whatever you suggest.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Any other comments before we move on? All right. Okay, well then we're going to move back then to our number 7 board committee reports. I'm going to recognize Dr. Skaggs. Do you have any other comments in regards to the Finance Committee?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to the Executive Committee report. Yesterday, TDLR voted to return the delegation of contested cases authority back to the TBVME. So I'm going to call Mr. Doug Jennings up to the front to give us details, board members, to give you all the facts and understanding of this decision made by TDLR yesterday.
Thank you, Dr. Goa. Mr. Pardue, good to see you. Board members, good to see you as well. My name is Doug Jennings. I'm the general counsel for TDLR. Wanted to walk you through the delegation decision that was made by our governing commission yesterday at their meeting. Just as a little reminder to the public and to the board members, our agencies have been working together since the attachment in a number of different ways, and our teams have become very familiar with each other. One of the things that we have been working on is providing some guidance regarding contested cases. And until yesterday, in most contested case matters, our commission was required to make the final decision relating to many of these matters. So on your typical agenda like we have today, you'll have a SOA case or two. You'll have pending dismissals, pending agreed orders, pending cease and desist orders, things of that nature. What is going on in the background is that TDLR has a team of attorneys that is working with staff, with your staff, to review these matters, make determinations as to whether or not dismissals are appropriate, whether agreed orders are sufficient and accurate, whether a cease and desist order should be issued. So there's been some quality control and some cooperation in the background before an item even makes it to your agenda. The difference with this delegation now is that when you are considering matters to dismiss, when you're considering complaints to dismiss, you're considering agreed orders to approve, cease and desist orders to issue. When you make a decision in your meeting today, that decision will be final. You have the final decision-making authority in that moving forward, unless and until our commission revokes that delegation of authority. What we do expect is that as we move through the process of working with you, continuing to work with you and your staff on contested case matters, there may be some fine-tuning to those delegation. There may be some expansion, some reduction as we move forward. But we are, I speak on my personal behalf, and my experience has been that our agencies are working very well together to review these matters and provide, we're doing our job to provide due diligence and quality control, and also believe that your staff is doing that as well. One other change that was recommended or that was approved yesterday is a change to SOA case procedure. So as you know, if your board is hearing a case that has been heard before a SOA judge, the administrative law judge issues a proposals for decision, the process has worked as follows. Your board will hear oral arguments from the parties, consider that proposal for decision, decide whether to adopt it as written, make modifications, or dismiss it. And what you are doing at this point is making a recommendation to our commission, to TDLR's governing commission, to approve your recommendation. On our end of our commission meetings, we have been duplicating the process somewhat, where we have invited the parties to provide oral argument. And what we have noticed is that has really just duplicated some processes. And also our commission, I won't speak for anyone in particular, but at least a couple of commissioners have come to me and said, we recognize that you are the experts. You are the experts in veterinary medicine, and they are not. What they want to make sure that they are doing is adequately recognizing your expertise, but making sure that we are performing, they and we, TDLR, are performing our job of making sure that there is no legal error in the decisions, and that we are present to provide you guidance on these SOA cases, to help your decision-making process, to help your options, help you understand your options. So the change in process will be that we will, moving forward, as long as this delegation stays as approved yesterday, we will not hear oral arguments in these matters at commission meetings. And the process will be, our commission will review your recommendation that you issue on a PFD, and will decide either if it's comfortable, if the commission wants to approve the PFD, it will do so, approve your recommendation, it will do so. And if it is uncomfortable or believes that there is an error, it is going to remand or send back the case to you for other proceedings. And that will be up for you and your staff to determine what form that will take. Whether that is simply inviting the parties back to discuss the PFD again and issuing another recommendation on the PFD, or to try to resolve the case in some other manner. But once again, this delegation, we believe that after the recent SAO audit, that it gave us some additional comfort. We've also worked with your staff extensively to understand the processes that you're using to review these matters. We have a comfort level that things are working well. And we also, and our commission wants to provide, we've talked about it already, the attachment, we have 3 more years left. We want to make sure that where you have the expertise is where, we want to recognize that, allow you to act, provide you resources, obviously, and provide support as needed, but provide you that runway to independence. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board members, do y'all have any questions for Mr. Jennings? Mr. Jennings, I just want to thank you and your work that you've done working with the TDLR commissioners to get this done. I think the people that benefit the most is the public because of the efficiency that this creates, because we're not having to have tasks duplicated. And we also would like to thank you for recognizing our area of expertise in these matters. Our veterinarians and our teams and our public members work very hard to educate themselves on these cases to try to come down to the right decision. So thank you for that. We look forward to this arrangement. And when things come up that are questionable, we will work together as a team.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gola. I appreciate it.
Okay, a couple more comments on my executive committee report. I will be appointing committees in January. I don't expect there to be major changes, but board members, if you have suggestions or thoughts in regards to the committees, please let me know. Again, I'll be making those in January, and you can contact me between now and then. What I would like.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do want to let you know that Ms. Whitehead has signed off.
Okay.
I think she was having some technical issues. But she is off as of a minute ago, and I'll let you know if she comes back on.
Thank you for noting that. What I would like to talk about when we talk about committees is the schedule with which we meet, and we've got several committees, and I just want to maybe get everybody to reprioritize us meeting as committees. I know there was a lot of obfuscation just due to the attachment with TDLR and what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be managing our work. But at the end of the day, I think the committee work can continue as it was intentional and originally intended. We've got the advisory committees, the EVP and the LVP committees, that's equine dental provider and the licensed veterinary technician committees. Those committees should meet biannually. They need to have those scheduled coming up here in this next quarter. And I will see to it that those two get scheduled, that they pick their new leadership and move forward with their meetings. The enforcement committee will continue to meet at least monthly for our informal conferences. We have been doing 2 a month for the last several months, and that's in an effort to try to really dispose and get through the cases and get caught up. And I think we're doing that. And I'd like to thank Dr. Skaggs and Dr. Kreiner for making their schedules available so that we can move through those. I think we've come up with a good cadence, and I look forward to continuing that. The Finance Committee will have some regularly scheduled committee meetings, and I expect that Dr. Skaggs and the staff will come up with a cadence that makes sense to meet our current challenges. And then our Licensing and Rules Committee will meet quarterly. So just kind of a review of the committees and then our work that needs to be done. And I thank you all for your commitment to getting that done. We will be having a town hall post-board meeting virtually on November the 14th. We felt that the experience that we had with the town hall for the strategic plan was very well received. We had a lot of participation and comment, and we want to provide a platform for the public to be able to give us comments. So Brittany, Executive Director Sharkey, and I will be hosting that on November the 14th, and we'll be posting the time and date and the ability to connect virtually after this meeting. We've been doing as much outreach effort as time will allow. We've been working with several magazines to make sure that we have op-eds and comments in there from the board. That includes Equine Dental Provider, TIVA, and TVMA. I'd like to thank those organizations for reaching out to us and working with us to be able to disseminate information. And we look forward. If there are any other organizations out there that think that our comments would be helpful to their organizations, please let us know. We'll see how we can work together. I also spent time making a presentation at the recent board meeting of the TVMA in Fort Worth. And I also visited with the San Antonio Veterinary Medical Association as well earlier this quarter in regards to the things that we at the board are doing and working with. I would like to recognize also at this time for Mr. Tacker and his work putting together the BAM and MK kit guidance for our exotic deer veterinarians. That is something that that group of veterinarians has been asking us for many, many, many years. And Mike put together a document to give them guidance on how best to handle the controlled substances that they have to very delicately prescribe for the use in the cervid populations for the needs of those public members. And I want to thank you for that, Mike. That data, I do believe, Ms. Sharkey, is now available on the website. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Okay. So board members, if you'd like to take some time to review that document, I will tell you that's not a document that's fixed. It is definitely available for review and adjustment. And so if you have some time, maybe read through that document if that interests you. But again, we're trying to provide guidance to the public so that they know how to navigate those issues when regarding to using BAM and MK kit prescriptions. And then finally, probably the biggest highlight of the quarter would have to be the September 3rd Senate hearing regarding the progress of our board and our attachment to the TDLR. And I'm very proud of that hearing. It was very nice to sit back and hear positive accolades to the staff, to the team, to our cooperation as a board with TDLR and the progress we're making. And I think nothing more shows that progress than what happened yesterday with TDLR. And so I'd like to congratulate everybody. We're 12 months into this attachment, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster. We had to learn to get to know each other. We had to learn to trust each other. We had to remove some suspicions and things that just naturally occur with change. And I know it's not been easy for board members. It's not been easy for staff on both sides, but I genuinely feel that we have come together and we're in a good spot to move forward. And so I want to thank everyone for making this happen. And I look forward to our progress over the next 3 years. And so thank y'all very, very much for all those efforts and the outcomes where we are. We've got a lot of work to do, but I think we're on good footing right now to make good things happen. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to our board members for any comments in regards to that. Okay, y'all are either all muted and are talking, or y'all have nothing to say. So that's great. All right.
Right. So I have a question. So I'm in the regard of the TDLR being the board being attached to the TDLR as far as administrative work goes. I know that we haven't really been getting all the communications that we once got when we were our own separate board. Is that going to improve? Are we going to start getting monthly updates as an entire board? And, you know, I also had a little bit of a concern about not getting an email indicating that, you know, reminding us that the board meeting was coming up and offering us the opportunity to have input with agenda items, because things happened between July 16th at the last board meeting and today that probably would have been nice to have had on the board meeting as a discussions and agendas, and unfortunately that didn't happen. So is that a TDLR thing? Is that a TBVME thing, or is that a combination? And is that something that can be managed for the future, for future board meetings, as well as getting monthly updates on, you know, what's the state of the agency?
Yeah, Dr. Kreiner, I think those are two great questions, and that's a two-part question. I'm going to answer the second part first, which is a reminder to call for agenda items. I've talked with Ms. Sharkey, and she has agreed that there is going to be an email sent to everybody prior to the meetings about a month to 2 weeks out before the agenda is posted to call for those things as a reminder to help us. And so we've gotten that commitment. So I appreciate you bringing that forward, and we're going to get that done. What I would ask you before I allow TDLR and our executive director to respond to your question is, what specific things, or are there specific things that our board members would like to see? Because I think because of the attachment in this new world we live in, if we know what it is you're looking for, I think that would better allow them to hit the target. So can you expand a little bit on specifically what you're asking for so we can make sure we're all on the same page?
So in the past, we would get reports as board members of things that are going on within the agency so that we didn't have to wait until a day or a week before the board meeting to know what things are being implemented, if we got new hires, if someone left the agency. So it wasn't a big surprise to us, you know, on the day of the board meeting, just so that, you know, as board members, it is our job and our duty to know what's going on within the agency, and not just one or two people, but the entire membership of the board should have the information.
And so with that, I'll open the floor to Ms. Sharkey.
So Dr. Kreiner, thank you for that. So, I mean, this is an internal, this is stuff that can come from within our staff. And so I think we're just trying to figure out what information is helpful, what is the appropriate cadence. So there was a board update sent out in September with, you know, a link to the recording of that hearing and some of those other updates. But so there wouldn't be one necessarily for October because we were meeting, but we're trying to just kind of figure out what that cadence is, what information is helpful. And so this is really good feedback, and we can start doing those again.
Well, I would like to agree with Dr. Kreiner. You know, it's a situation, a problem that I think we've dealt with the entire time that I've been on the board, where we'll get good updates, and Ms. Sharkey gave us some good updates early on, but then all of a sudden those just stopped. And so as a board member, it's frustrating to me to not be able to know, A, we've hired somebody, or B, we've lost somebody in the office, or these are the issues that have come up on a regular basis, because we as board members often hear from our constituents that, hey, why did this happen? And it's very frustrating as a board member to not know anything about it. You know, and so I don't know what the challenge is with that, but I would certainly appreciate if we could figure out a way to get those to become more regular. And again, I echo Dr. Kreiner, is we used to get a chance to give some agenda items before the meeting, and those have seemed to evaporate as well. And you know, and I guess that's partly on us for not offering or not trying to fight to get those on the agenda. But I just think the mechanism that we used to use was better with that.
As far as agenda items, and we will be sending out reminders for that, I would ask every board member, if you have an agenda item that you want presented on the agenda, please contact me. I know there was maybe some historical time in previous administrations where that was guarded very, very tightly. I want y'all to know that I welcome any and all advice, input, recommendations as to the agenda that we present here. That's what a board is for. And so please contact me, and we will do a better job reminding you to give us stuff that you've got on the agenda. And if there's a reason why we don't put it on the agenda, you're owed an explanation. And I think we've recently done that with one individual. But we're going to do our best to be transparent and communicate. I just need your help in also bringing those things to us. I got one comment. I'm going to stop for just a second. Ms. Allen, are you able to hear us? I know there was a question with your connectivity. Are you good? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, great. All right. So with that, continue the discussion. Anybody else have any comments?
No, if I can ask, and I appreciate Dr. Kreiner and Dr. Skaggs, is even in those updates, if we could have timelines for when things are going to be coming due. So we just can be mindful of making sure those things are reviewed or our input is done well ahead of when that information is brought forward.
Almost like a calendar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do noted. I'm sorry that Ms. Whitehead's not here to have comments. I'm confident she probably would have some, but maybe we can get her comments individually, but she's still not connected.
No, so she said she was gonna try to log back in when she got to her office, but
Okay.
the internet was sketchy where she was.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, any other comments regarding that? All right. Hearing none, then let's go ahead and move on. We're going to move to, actually, I'm going to do another skip on the agenda because we need to go into an executive session before we hear item number 9. So I'm going to move to item number 10, consideration and possible recommendation to the Texas Commission of License and Regulation regarding approval of agreed orders. I recognize Mrs. Phelps on this agenda item.
Excuse me, Dr. Gola, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Kelly. I just want to remind the members, while we're deliberating and we're considering items for action, members that are not on camera will be considered absent for the purpose of an item that we're discussing.
Okay. I do want to recognize currently, it seems that everybody but Ms. Whitehead, who is not present, is on camera.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Phelps.
Thank you. Agenda item 10. In addition to the recusals noted on the agenda, Ms. Allen is going to be recused from voting on CP 23284, and Dr. Gola is recused from voting on CP 23221 and CP 23284. Additionally, I've been notified that board members would like to pull cases CP 23213, CP 23296, and CP 24269 for executive session. Would any additional board members like to be recused from any of these cases regarding approval of agreed orders or wish to pull any cases for executive session?
Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to recommend approval of the agreed orders in the agenda that have not been pulled? Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion and seconded that we approve the agreed orders that have not been pulled for is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. All right, agenda item number 11, consideration and possible recommendation to the TDLR regarding dismissal of cases from informal conferences. The chair recognizes Ms. Phelps on agenda item 11.
Ms. Allen is recused from voting on case CP 23381. Would any additional board members like to be recused from any of these cases regarding informal conference dismissal or wish to pull any of these cases for executive session?
I need to recuse from 23376.
Can you restate that, Dr. Kreiner? You broke up a little bit.
Sorry, CP 23376 requires a recusal.
Any other refusals? Are there any cases that board members would like to pull for discussion from those cases from informal conference? Okay, hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the cases for dismissal on agenda item number 11.
So moved.
Okay, it was moved by Ms. Olivier. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Kreiner. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. All right, agenda item number 12, consideration and possible recommendation to the TDLR regarding dismissal of cases from staff conference. Again, I recognize Ms. Phelps for this agenda item.
Thank you. The board members have notified me they want to pull case CP 23414 for executive session. Aside from that case and the recusals noted on the agenda, would any additional board members like to be recused from voting on any of these cases or pull any other cases for executive session?
Okay, hearing no recusals or cases to be pulled, do I have a motion for approval? Motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, no discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. All right, agenda item 13, consideration and possible recommendation to the TDLR regarding dismissal of cases from medical review. I recognize Ms. Phelps for agenda item 13.
Thank you. So the board members have notified me they would like to pull cases CP 23408 and CP 24029 for executive session. Would any other board members like to be recused from voting on any of the medical review dismissal cases or pull any additional cases for executive session?
Can you repeat those numbers again?
CP 23408 and CP 24029.
Ms. Phelps, I need to recuse myself from CP 23408. And I'd like to have pulled CP 24225 and CP 24069.
Could you say those numbers again, please?
CP 24225 and CP 24069.
Thank you, sir.
Board members, do we have any other recusals or cases to pull? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to recommend approval of those cases that have not been pulled for discussion? Motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion regarding this? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Okay, we're now moving on to discussion of possible agenda items for future board meetings. Does anybody have any agenda items for discussion at our next board meeting? I'd like to add one. I'd like to do a review of Rule 573.44, considering compounding drugs. Again, that's to review Rule 573.44, compounding drugs. Any other agenda items at this time? Okay, again, as those come up, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'd also like to just publicly state our future meeting dates. We're going to stick to the third Tuesday of the first month of the quarter. And I'm going to read these out. So they should be posted on our website shortly after the meeting. January 21st of 2025, April 15th of 2025, July 15th, 2025, and October 14th of 2025. Now, please understand that these meetings are subject to change depending upon availability of this room and scheduling conflicts. But at least get this on your calendar so that people will have time to arrange travel and schedules. I want to make sure we reserve these dates.
Dr.
Any-
Bowen,
any-
those?
Yes. January 21st, April 15th, July 15th, October 14th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 15, executive session pursuant to chapter 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. This meeting of the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners will now go into executive session. It is 10:30 a.m. We will need to clear the room for this portion. 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, the board is returned from executive session. No action was taken in executive session. We're going to revert back to agenda item number 7 of committee reports, and I recognize Dr. Lynn Kreiner for an enforcement report.
So in our recent informal conferences, an issue that had been discussed in previous years had kind of raised its head again. And I don't believe it's anything we as board members can do anything about, but I do believe it needs to be available for people to understand maybe why things don't go the way they need to go or should go or they believe they should go. And it's nothing that board members can actually do anything about at this time. And this is just a comment or a discussion around the increase in cases against veterinarians who work within the corporate structure. And what we're finding is that we cannot, in good faith, basically sanction veterinarians who are employed in corporations but are not responsible for the corporate structures. And the issue with the corporate structures is the ownership or the management is not by veterinarians specifically. And so when issues arise with the owners having a problem with their animals, and they file complaints against these veterinarians, and it goes through the whole process. When it gets to where we look at it on the informal conferences, the veterinarian doesn't have any control over the issue that caused the problem. And that would have to be something that we would have to deal with at the clinic level or the corporate level, in which, someone other than a veterinarian could be sanctioned. And we can only sanction veterinarians. We cannot sanction clinics that fail in some manner to follow the rules or have been deficient in what they're doing. But the veterinarian on that day who was there, who saw the client or was there during whatever the situation was, they're generally the ones that, are held responsible by the owners, the pet owners, or in some cases, the inspectors when the clinics are being inspected. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, that, it's not fair for us to hold individual veterinarians responsible for corporate policies in which they have no control. Another item that I wanted to put out there as far as an enforcement issue has to do with the equine dental providers. And I guess it's more of a question, though I've been asked about this by colleagues of mine, that they're seeing EDPs out in barns and in facilities doing dentals on horses without a veterinarian in the vicinity. And so that speaks to an EDP's ability to use sedatives on patients, when I don't believe that is something that they are allowed to do based on the legislative Practice Act in the legislature, and what was decided on what EDPs could and couldn't do. They can do dentistry, and we have no problem with that. But are they allowed to actually sedate the animals? And I'd certainly like to get the opinion of the director of enforcement on that. And I'm pretty sure the rules are clear, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood those rules, as I've had colleagues wanting to move forward in the complaint process, but they weren't sure if the complaint would be even looked at because of this issue of them being EDPs, and some people having a misunderstanding of what that really entails.
Thank you, Dr. Kreiner. I think we can, maybe that EDP, topic be put on and as an agenda item for the next meeting for discussion.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions for Dr. Kreiner? All right, thank you for that report. Okay, moving on to, Dr. Kreiner, was there anything else?
No.
Moving on to, back to agenda item number 9, consideration and possible recommendation of contested cases before the State Office of Administrative Hearings. I recognize Ms. Phelps.
Thank you, Dr. Gola. In regards to this case, we have a request from the respondent that we continue consideration of this matter to our next board meeting. The respondent's attorney has a conflict and is unable to be here today to speak on the respondent's behalf. So we will need to take a vote as to whether to continue the case or if we want to hear it today.
I will need a motion for that.
Motion.
There's been a motion to provide a continuance for this case. Need a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed, please say nay. And motion carries. We provide the continuance. All right, we've had some cases that were pulled prior to executive session. We're going to go back to that. We're going to start with agenda item 10 regarding approval of agreed orders. We're going to start with case CP 23-213. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion
And what is that motion?
to approve as
Okay,
written.
motion to approve.
Yes,
Is there a
sir.
second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Is there any discussion?
Aye. Nope.
Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, motion carries to approve. Okay, next case, again, agreed order, CP 23-296. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
It's been moved to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion carries. Okay, next case, again, agreed orders, CP 24-269. Do I have a motion?
Dr. Gola, is it 269 or 296? Just for clarification,
Can you
please.
clarify, Kelly?
269.
Yeah, 24-269.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
It's been moved to approve case 24-269. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those that disapprove, nay. Okay, motion carries. Okay, now we're going to move to agenda item 12. We pulled case, and this is a dismissal of cases from staff conference. We pulled case CP 23-414. Do I have a motion?
I move that we move this case for a for an IC.
Okay, it's been motion to move this to an IC conference. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, now moving to agenda item 13. These are cases we pulled for medical review. Start with case CP 23-408. CP 23-408. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, I have a moval to approve. Second?
Second.
And a second. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Okay, next, CP 24-029. Do we have a motion?
I move we refer this case to a staff conference.
Okay, it's been moved that we refer this case to staff conference. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Okay, case CP 24-069. Do we have a motion?
Move to dismiss.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Final case, case CP 24-225. Do I have a motion?
Move to dismiss.
Have a motion to dismiss. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our work today on our agenda. I appreciate everybody's patience with the technology and attendance today. I wish you all
Dr.
the
Goldman?
best. Yes.
Could we offer up potential agenda items for future meetings at this point?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry. Got ahead of me. Yes, please do.
If possible, I would like to explore the discussion that Dr. Kreiner presented as far as corporations and our ability, if so, to license them so that they can be held accountable when their decisions impact the health of animals.
Okay, I got that. Corporations and ability to be licensed. I also have on there from Dr. Kreiner's comments, equine dental providers and sedatives. Any other items? Okay, again, I appreciate everybody's attendance today and the patience with the technology and the changing of the date. But with that, this meeting is adjourned.